Thanks for stopping by at Twisted Art Designs. I just wanted to drop in and say hi, do a quick little video, try to get my feet wet. I've been missing in action for a bit. If you saw my last video, I talked about that my father passed away November 1st, and so it's been kind of a tough time, and the holidays, of course, are quite tough, losing a loved one right before the holidays, but my mom and I made the best of it, and I wanted to say thank you to everybody for your well wishes and prayers and nice messages. So I just want to say thank you and to get my feet back into making videos again. So let's get started. My positive word of the day is thankful. As yesterday was Thanksgiving, thankful is a perfect positive word. So think about the things that you're thankful for. Maybe do a journal page of writing down the things you're thankful for. A lot of people have the tradition at Thanksgiving of going around the table and everybody talks about what they're thankful for. And so this is just a great positive word for today, the things you're thankful for. I'm thankful for my family and my friends, my social media friends that have been so kind and sweet, my followers that watch my videos, and I'm just thankful that I can create art. So think about what you're thankful for today. Now let's get started and have some fun with my quick little tutorial. One quick tip I have to start with is if you have ribbon reels like this, any size, big or small, and as you're going through ribbon wrapping gifts this holiday season, or working in your junk journals or your art journals, and you use up a little roll, take one end of the ribbon roll off. You can make a beautiful tag out of this. This is nice hard cardboard. This would be just a darling tag. It's already a circle, so you can cover it with fancy papers and, you know, punch a hole and add a little string to it. So save that for a cute tag. And then this side, I leave it just like this, where it's all uneven, and it makes a perfect paint stamp for doing circles on your pages. You've got the other side to hold on to, just like a stamp, and so you can put your paints down on your palette, and then use this as a stamp to pick up paint, and then stamp paint circles onto your page. So never throw away these cute ribbon reels. They're perfect for tags and for stamping different size circles. So I'm working on my fall journal that I had showed before, and I'm getting close to being done. I'm not ready to show a flip through quite yet, but on the inside, I covered the outside of my book with material and then folded it around to the other side, and then on the inside, I covered it with brown cardstock so it's plain, and I want the front of the book, when you open it, to have words in it. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to put those words in the front of the book. And this is a fun technique that you could use in an art journal, in a scrapbook, a junk journal, anything, any book, any kind. So you could use this. It's very versatile. I'm taking a piece of watercolor paper. I have stencils, lettering stencils that have some pretty big chunky letters for an alphabet. I'm not sure. These are 2-inch letters, so they're 2-inch letters. This was by Deja Vu's, the Better Letter stamps, and this style is called Spunky. But any 2-inch letter, or it could be smaller or bigger than that if you have different stencils, but you want to pick a letter that's kind of chunky. That's what works best for this technique. So I'm going to put the stencils aside, and then I'm going to use watercolor paints. I've got the Paul Rubens set of watercolor paints. I'm going to use those. I have Ken Oliver powders and Brusho powders that are also powdered watercolors, and my spray bottle and my watercolor paper. So what I'm going to do is to wet my paper. I'm going to mist my paper and get it nice and wet. It's okay if it buckles. Doesn't matter. It'll all iron itself back out later. But I'm going to just get it nice and wet. And I'm going to get my paints, give my paints a little mist. So you could do these in any colors. You could do this technique in any color you wanted. So You could do it in blues for like the word ocean or sea or mermaid. You could do it in reds for Christmas, the word joy, anything. Any word, any color. So I'm going to just pick up some watercolor paint and I'm going to start dropping it in onto the page. If it's not wet enough to spread out, then add a little more water, but just start adding some color here. And I like to start with the watercolors, the paints first, and then I'm going to move on to adding the powders on top of it. This is just going to give the watercolors, will give a nice background. And then the brushes are kind of vibrant and crazy, and I'm going to use them sparingly just to add some more interest. So I'm using fall colors because it's a fall journal, and I'm going to use the word fall in my journal. Let's pick up some rust. Let's add some browns and some rusts. You can wipe your brush off on a paper towel as you move on to the next color. You don't want to make mud, so you're going to let this really just do its thing. You want to let the art supply do its thing. And some browns. And if it doesn't spread out, missed it. It's already looking pretty. I know it looks kind of like, it'll start to look like a hot mess and then it'll look really pretty. And then when you see it at the end, it's just way cool. So it has to go through its process. Hot mess and then pretty. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so now next I'm going to use my Ken Olivers. So right now, while it's still nice and wet, that's when you want to add some of your, this one is Solar Flare. You want to use your watercolor powders. Just be very careful. Add a little bit here and there. Don't overdo it. A little goes a long way with these. As you can see, it's starting to, they start to bleed out, and look at what those powders look like. They're beautiful. So use them sparingly. This one is yellow ochre. This will be pretty. Just put a little flecks of powder down and let them do their thing. And that yellow ochre one has a little touch of green in it, which is kind of funny. But that's okay. That'll be pretty. Let's see. Do I have a brown? Here's burnt orange. That'll be pretty. Add a touch of that. I may not even use my Brusho. I have Brusho powders too, but I do love the Ken Oliver colors. Here's sepia. This is going to be a great thing for fall. The fall look. Okay. Don't want to go any crazier than that. So I think I am going to mist a little bit more. You can pick this up and kind of let them run like that. That looks cool. but you don't want to do too much because it's going to blend it too much. And then you're going to just let that sit and dry. You can dry it with a heat tool, but it's so wet it's going to take a while, or you can just let it air dry, and then you're going to come back and use your stencils. I added a little bit more orange powder, and I'm using my watercolor brush to just kind of carefully spread that orange around where I put the orange powder. Oh, it's pretty. Ken Oliver powders are just gorgeous. Gorgeous. So you can do that. You can spread it with your brush too. If you think you're getting too much water and it's not spreading the way you want it to look, take your brush and do it a little. But you have to be careful because you don't want to overdo this. You don't want it to be muddy and you don't want it to be overdone. So you kind of have to get it to a point where you like it and have the courage to stop, because you want to keep adding more and more and more, but don't. My advice is don't. Just get it not where it looks kind of cool and then leave it alone. Because once it's dry, you can always wet it again. You can always wet your page again, and you can always add more. If it dries and it's not enough color for you, or you want to add some different colors to it, you can do that. You can re-wet anything that's watercolor and pick some of the color up, or you can add more color to it. Just be advised that when you re-wet it, they do bleed back into each other again, because that's what watercolor medium is. Well, that looks really pretty. So I'm going to leave that as it is because I really like it a lot. And once it dries, then I'll show you the next step. So here's what it looks, and be aware that watercolors or even Ken Oliver powders, that when they dry, they do tone down. So they're not going to be as stark and vibrant as when they're wet. They still are very bright and pretty, but they do tone down a bit. So just be aware of that. If you want it even brighter, like I said, remist this and add some more layers on top. I like the way this looks, so I'm going to move on. So next I'm going to use my stencils, and I'm going to find really cool places where I'm doing the word fall. So I want to put this down and find a place where I really like the colors and how it looks in the letter. And then I'm just going to draw around that letter, and then I'm going to cut them out. So I'm going to do that for the letters fall. And then I'll come back and show you what they look like. So look how pretty those letters turned out. Just gorgeous. The colors are so vibrant and pretty. So next I'm going to use some Distress ink, my favorite ink tool, and a brush tip marker. So I'm going to go around the edges, because if you turn them sideways, you see that white edge. Go around the edges and use a brush tip marker to take away those white edges. And then I'm going to use my ink tool. This is my favorite ink tool. It pops out of its little holder, and you put it on your fingers like this. I love this thing. And you can pick up your ink and then go in and do your distress edges, and it's the easiest tool ever. I love it. I've used the ink tools from Tim Holtz, and I like those too. This is way better. It spreads it nicer, and a nicer, bigger space, a bigger area gets covered too if you're doing book pages or big things. These things are awesome. So I'll have the link to that in the description box. So I'm going to go ahead and go around all the edges and distress them, and then show you the next thing I'm going to do with my page. So here's how the letters turned out. I love them. They turned out just so pretty. I like the dark edges with the distress ink and the brush ink. And I got this piece of burlap, and I'm going to make that the backdrop for this little title on my page. And what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to just cut this so that I've got the edge of it. And I'm going to take some embroidery floss and a needle with a big eye. Okay, so I've got that like that. I'm going to pull a couple strings off so it's frayed at the top too. Cool. Okay, and I'm going to take these two colors of embroidery floss that are fall colors, and I'm going to just put this on my needle. And since Burlap's got a nice open weave right in the middle here where the words are going to go, I'm just going to weave back and forth. I'm not choosing how many squares I'm going through. I'm just going to make it very random and pull that through so that I've got this cool line of thread. That's going to go behind the letters. Just gives you something else to look at. And I think I'm going to do that gold color top and bottom, and then I'm going to double the brown. Just like that. Super simple but cute. Look how cute that looks. Just adds a little something to the burlap. And then with my darker color, I think I'm going to double it. So it's twice as thick. It'll show up even more. And I'm kind of going back and forth so it's not just in a straight line. It's kind of jagged and caterwonky. Ooh, look at how pretty that looks. I love it. It just gives it a little something extra. So just weave the needle back and forth and pull it through. I'm kind of anchoring it with my thumb so that I don't pull it all the way through. When I pull it, kind of pinch here and pull. But let's see what that looks like. That looks really cool when you put your letters on to have that stitching. So I'm going to add a few more rows of that to this background, and then I'll show you what it looks like on the page. So here's how it's going to turn out. I haven't glued it in yet, but instead of placing it across this way, it fit better this way, so I turned it and turned the letters. And what I'm going to do with my strings is just to cut them off. They don't need to be knotted. They don't need anything. They're just going to get trimmed off at the top and at the bottom like that. And then it's all going to get glued down into place. I love it. So cute and so different. With the embroidery floss behind it, it just gives something, that cute little subtle touch behind the letters. So here's what it turned out like. I love the burlap with the embroidery floss running through it. The watercolor letters turned out great, and then I used some clip art of some fall leaves. I got my clip art for this book from Victoria Designs, from Hither and Yon, and from the Graphics Fairy. I'll put the links in the description box below. And I just hope that you enjoyed this. Maybe it taught you something fun to use for your scrapbooks, junk journals, art journal pages. A fun way of doing lettering for your pages. Really colorful and fun lettering. So thanks for stopping by, and go make some art today, because art soothes the heart.